So guys, what if Naruto God of Shinobi in DxD and Kuroka as slave movie? Inside a cave was a spiky blonde-haired man. The man had 3 whisker marks on each cheek and had azure blue eyes that seemed to pierce right through people. His outfit consists of a headband on his right arm with a swirling leaf symbol, an orange shirt and black pants, and a white coat with red flames on the bottom. Behind the coat, it clearly says the 7th Hokage. This was Naruto Uzumaki, the 7th Hokage, the hero of the 4th Great Ninja War, and lastly the Yondaime Kami no Shinobi, 4th God of Shinobi. A title he received when he saved the world from a madman who wielded the Tensigen, and with his achievements of mastering and creating jutsus. Although he looked quite young, he was, in fact, around 800 years old by now. Currently, beads of sweat came down his forehead as he focused on a seal he was working on for the past 700 years. In the center of the seal was a sheath that was made of gold and was decorated with blue enamel. This was one of Naruto's prized possessions. After the 4th Great Shinobi War, no one in the shinobi world knew why, but Naruto cared a lot about that sheath. During his time as the 7th Hokage, he encountered one of the very few last members of the Otsutsuki clan whose objective was to recollect all chakra and turn it into a new chakra fruit. The Otsutsuki's name was Momoshiki. Unfortunately for the man, he would have actually succeeded in recreating the chakra fruit if he hadn't touched one of Naruto's forbidden taboos: the sheath. When Momoshiki captured Naruto and tied him to the Shinju tree, he saw something on Naruto's waist that interested him greatly. It was the sheath that Naruto carried with him. The sheath seemed to exhibit some sort of calm yet powerful energy that was quite different from chakra. Thinking of it as another way to gain more strength, Momoshiki reached out to take the sheath from Naruto. That was his mistake though. The moment he touched the sheath, Naruto practically went crazy. He immediately went straight into 6 paths Sage mode and unleashed barrages of all of his most destructive jutsus towards Momoshiki. The multiple variants of his Rasen Shuriken, the Chidori which he learned from his best friend along with the Kirin, and a weird golden energy that was formed into a sword came together, striking Momoshiki down from where he stood, completely destroying him. Ever since that day, Naruto kept the sheath from within his seal right beside Kurama just in case anyone were to dare touch it or attempt to steal it from him. Now, he was using it in attempts to create something that was never made before in this world. A world-traveling seal. Suddenly, as beads of sweat dripped down his face, his eyes widened. Kurama now! Naruto roared as he began pumping his chakra into the seal. Got it, Naruto. Kurama, his lifetime partner who's been with him since the day he was born. He obviously knew how important this was to Naruto right now. Naruto spent over 700 years working on this seal. Although it might not seem a lot to Kurama and the other bijus, it was quite a lot for humans. If Naruto were to fail now, he would have to rework on this seal from scratch, not to mention find the rare materials that are scattered around the world to make the seal. Pumping as much chakra as the two could, the seal suddenly began glowing a golden color as the sheath in the center began floating and started glowing a golden color as well. Before long, the sheath suddenly pointed towards outside the cave as it shot a huge glob of golden energy. Right when it was about to head outside of the cave, it suddenly stopped and showed a weird image. Something he was quite familiar with. We did it. Naruto said with mixed emotions, his face pale due to pumping in almost all of his chakra. Kurama was simply watching everything from inside of Naruto as he looked at that very familiar portal. Naruto. You know there were 2 portals and not just one. I am not even sure who we even will find or if they are even alive after 700 years. This is what Kurama wanted to say to Naruto. In fact, he was even tempted to, yet he couldn't. He couldn't destroy his hope. Not when he worked on this seal for 700 years. Kurama, you remembered what the old man said to us that day, right? Those portals that we saw that day led to the same world yet different timelines. Maybe. Just maybe there is hope we could find them. Naruto said as he calmed his emotions that were running rampant. Even if the chances of meeting them are slim, I will do everything I can to help you find them, Naruto. Kurama sighed before he promised Naruto. He was feeling really tired right now. Maybe it was because he pumped in almost all of his chakra into that seal, or the fact he hadn't used this much chakra since the battle with that accursed Otsutsuki. When Naruto heard this, he simply shook his head. Kurama, I can tell you're tired right now. Just take a rest. For something like this, it had to expend a lot of chakra. Even my reserves as an Uzumaki took at least 90%, and even then the best I can power up the seal to was 30%. Not to mention me, who knows how much it took from you. Naruto felt the chakra left within his friend. It was currently fragile, as if a touch could simply disperse the chakra. In this world, everyone who depletes all their chakra will most likely die no matter who they are. This was how it has always been. He obviously didn't want to lose one of the remaining people who happens to know about his life and is one of his precious friends. When Kurama heard what Naruto said, he simply just gave a soft smile to Naruto before he closed his eyes, falling asleep for God knows how long. As Naruto felt Kurama slowly sleeping, he turned his head towards the sheath that was still pointed towards the portal. Quickly, he grabbed the sheath with a wave of his hand and placed it inside his seal right beside Kurama. Turning his attention towards the portal again, he took a deep breath as he slowly walked towards it, his blue eyes steeled itself with determination. As he slowly entered the portal, an image of a beautiful blonde woman appeared in his mind. Her eyes were full of affection and her smile that was full of love as she gazed upon him before she looked down on something that was covered in a blanket in her arms. Please wait for me. I will find the both of you. The promise of 700 years ago will be fulfilled soon. Just wait. Naruto whispered as he walked right into the portal, causing it to close the moment he walked in. From that moment, Naruto had disappeared from the elemental nations and the shinobi world for good. In a city besides Kuo Town, a portal opened on top of a 7-story building. Quite impressive. A voice came from the portal. As he walked out, he continued staring at the scenery in front of him. By the time he was outside of the portal closed itself completely, never to be seen from or heard about again. The technology advancement here is better than the shinobi world. Yet, his azure blue eyes narrowed down to the citizens who were walking. They have no chakra. This wasn't the first time he has seen this. There was only one time where he had seen something like this, and that was her. Well, I guess searching around is the best for now, Naruto said as he formed a hand seal. Shadow clone jutsu. Like that, 10 other Narutos poofed into existence. Yet, Naruto could only frown as small beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. My chakra reserves are at its lowest right now. At this point, the only jutsu I can use is probably the Rasengan, one flying Raijin, and the transformation jutsu. Naruto thought to himself as he stared at his clones. Scatter. I want information about this world. Naruto ordered his clones as they all saluted at him with a nod. Yes, sir. The 10 clones scattered across the city, heading towards different directions in hopes of finding information about this world. When they were all gone, Naruto closed his eyes, gathering natural energy from around it. The moment the natural energy entered him. Kill. Naruto's opened his eyes wide as he stopped what he was doing. Before long, a frown came across his face as he once again looked at the citizens below him. So, humans here have pissed off Mother Nature itself, huh? Naruto mumbled. This made it a bit more difficult. At best, he could try to calm Mother Nature down, but he didn't know where to start. He could send some shadow clones to help protect the forests, trees, and send clones to help with whatever that is happening. If the humans have polluted the water, then he would also have to try and stop them from doing that as well. Naya, so you are the one I sensed using senjutsu. Suddenly, a voice appeared behind him. When Naruto turned around, he saw a beautiful black-haired woman with hazel-slitted eyes similar to that of a cat. She wore a black kimono that was red in the inside while also seeming a bit loose and had 2 tails behind her. You wouldn't be the descendant of Matabi that somehow crossed over here, would you? Naruto stated as he blinked a few times. Who's Matabi? The woman asked, her voice curious as to why he would think she would be a descendant of that person. Never mind. Anyways, who are you? I sensed you earlier when I arrived. Out of everyone in this city, you are the only one with chakra. Not to mention that you also obtained senjutsu. Naruto narrowed his eyes at the woman before him. She blinked a few times before covering her hands and laughing. It seems you don't know who I am, which is quite surprising. My name is Kuroka. I am a Nekosho, and she suddenly dashed right in front of him before stopping as she smiled, gazing at his eyes. I am an SS class stray devil. Shocking Naruto, 2 wings popped out right behind her before disappearing. Devils. They actually exist here? Naruto thought to himself, shocked. Devils, angels, and gods. He did heard all those terms before. He knew better than to treat them as nothing real. The only real god he had ever met was only the goddess Kagaya. Although that person left quite a bad impression on him, he was only glad that she was dead with the help of Sasuke and that person. As for angels, what are those? If there were such thing as angels, the world he lived in probably wouldn't bother to send children to war dying young. Devils? In his opinion, some of the shinobis from his time were devils as they committed all sort of sins and crimes. What? What are devils? Naruto asked, surprising Kuroka. How did he not know about devils? Isn't he a part of the supernaturals? Suddenly, Her eyes widened as she immediately got into a defensive state. "Are you an exorcist?" Kuroka said cautiously as she stared at him. The more she got close to him, the more she felt another energy from inside of him. Something that was quite different than the natural energy and chakra. It wasn't until he asked what devils were that she finally recognized the energy inside of him. The man held something no human could hold. Holy energy, the power that both angels and fallen angels use. If he had a holy weapon, maybe she could understand, but one that was inside of him. He certainly didn't have a sacred gear so far from what she sensed, so that only left one nearly impossible option. This man had somehow gained the affinity to use holy energy just like the angels of heaven. A thing not a single person in mankind could do, even dating back to the beginning of their time. "No, I am not. I don't even know that is. Look, I was just secluded from the world until now. I don't even know the common sense of people who aren't a part of the supernatural, not to mention anything that involves it." Naruto explained, telling both truth and lies to her. No one should know who he is. At least, for now. Not until he finds someone he could trust here. Kuroka still had some doubt in her eyes but slowly lowered her guard against him. Before long, she began to tell him everything she could about this world. Telling him about many factions and legends. The Hindu faction, Shinto faction, the Greeks, Norse mythology, the three factions, the Great War, and all that. As she explained, he got more curious about the three factions she mentioned. "What are the three factions?" Naruto asked curiously. The three factions comprise of three races, each with their own unique abilities that once frightened the powerhouses of the world. They are one of the most famous beings to the humans, considering their religion spread around the world fast. There are the angels, beings who are a servant of the Christian God basically. All of them are known to be quite kind-hearted, yet can be easily be quite frightening depending on what sort of sin you committed. Then there are the fallen angels, beings who have fallen from heaven. They are angels who have committed sins. The most common known sin these angels have committed are lust and greed. Kuroka explained to him, causing him to nod. "What about the last faction?" Naruto asked. The moment he asked that, her eyes were instantly filled with pain and grief before it disappeared as fast as it came. If Naruto wasn't a trained shinobi, he probably wouldn't have even noticed those eyes that were filled with pain. They are the devils. Led by the four mouths: Lucifer, Leviathan, Beelzebub, and Asmodeus. Because of the recent war, their numbers have diminished greatly and started using a system similar to chess to populate their own kind. Though to them, they are different factions, they are in fact one to the rest of the world. We simply just believe that they split into three different groups, similar to how the Teps faction has two sides. She explained about the evil peace system to him and the devils before moving on to the rest of the supernatural world. Naruto was honestly grateful towards her. Although he had clones searching around for information, the information she had given him would have taken him at least a month or two to gather. It wasn't until long that after she was finished explaining that the two decided to walk through the city while talking to each other. "So, what was it like being secluded from the rest of the world?" Kuroka asked curiously. The man seemed to be around 18 or 19. If he was secluded from the world at birth, then wouldn't he not know how to interact with others? Yet, here he is, talking to her just fine. Honestly, it was boring. Being alone. Still, I had at least one person to talk to. A great friend of mine. At first, we hated each other. He wanted to get rid of me, and I wanted to get rid of him. Later on, though, we gradually began to put aside our differences and became the best of friends. Naruto smiled softly as he reminisced in that memory when he and Kurama put aside their differences in the Fourth Great Shinobi War. That war, their friendship has been made. Yet, that war made him lose the person he loved and. Before he continued further, suddenly, multiple memories flushed into his head, causing him to stop walking. It seemed that the clones just finished scouting and one of them happened to get him a new identity and a house to live in. Why did you stop?" Kuroka asked him. All he did was simply flash her a smile. "It seems I just got a new house to live in," Naruto said to her, causing her to tilt her head, making her look rather cute. "I have this ability to form shadow clones. They can do all sort of tasks for me, whether it be chores, scouting areas, and fighting. Once they disperse, I can take in anything they saw or any information they had." Naruto explained, causing her eyes to widen. That was a really useful ability. If she had that ability, she could have probably not run as much as she did from the devils and exorcists that were chasing her. "Kuroka, do you have a place to stay?" Naruto asked her as he just remembered she called herself an SS-class stray devil. Something that sounded awfully similar to the missing nins and bingo books. "No, I don't. You know that I have to always run or else I would be caught and then executed. Kuroka said, smiling bitterly. She hated running like this, yet she did not have a choice. If she retaliated, the devils might just vent their frustrations on her sister. Although it was unlikely since she was taken in by the Gremory family, that was still something that she did not want to risk. The two eventually decided to go on a roof of a building as they sat down on a bench together, both enjoying the comfortable silence before Naruto broke it. How about you stay with me? Naruto said, causing Kuroka's eyes to widen at what he just asked. Why? Kuroka asked him with a confused look. She could not understand why he asked if she wanted to stay with him. She honestly didn't believe it was something like love in first sight, as those things only happened in fictional stories and movies. You helped me out a lot by telling me everything you knew about this world and the supernatural. Although it might seem to be not much to you, it was really important to me. Naruto simply said as he stared at the beautiful night sky. Although he could have gotten the information he asked of her through his clones, he doubts he would gain it all in a single day. It probably would have taken him 6 months, and that was still pushing it. Are you sure you have no ulterior motives? Kuroka stared at him cautiously. Although she had to admit she enjoyed spending time with him even though it was just for a few hours, there was still no guarantee if this was a trap set up by bounty hunters. Kuroka, I seriously have no ulterior motives. Although I am not sure what you experienced when those devils and bounty hunters chase after you, I can promise you I am not a part of those idiots who are after your head. Naruto said, looking at her right in the eyes. Her eyes still had a hint of doubts, but after a while, she simply nodded. Alright. I'll believe you. Although, I probably won't be at the house most of the time due to other business. Kuroka said as she glanced away from him. Naruto simply just nodded, not bothering to think that much about it. He took out a piece of paper as well as the brush he had for making seals back in that cave deep in the mountains and wrote the address on it before handing it to Kuroka. Here, this is the address. Feel free to drop by. The bed is already set for you, so you can go ahead and sleep on it right now if you want. The furniture should be coming soon though, so you'd have to get by with simple cereal until my clones go out to shop for groceries. Naruto explained as Kuroka just nodded a few times before placing it inside of her sash. Thank you, she said earnestly to him, causing a small smile to come across his face. A smile that hadn't appeared for quite a while. How long was it? 200 years. The last time he smiled was only because of the Biju reuniting again and the temple that was built for each and every single one of them as a sign of respect. That was the day he finally let himself rest a bit, knowing that humanity won't seal the remaining Bijus inside somebody. Then again, he was secluded in a cave and had no one but Kurama to talk to, so maybe that was the reason why he didn't smile during those years in that cave. No problem. Remember that if you don't have a place to stay, I will always welcome you to my home. Naruto said with a smile on his face, causing Kuroka's cheek to turn a bit pink. She closed her eyes, enjoying the warm feeling she was getting in her heart before turning around, her back facing him. See you later, Kuroka said as she jumped from building to building before he couldn't see her anymore. See you later, Naruto whispered as he stood at his spot for a while before disappearing in a yellow flash. Kuo Town. In the corner of Kuo Town, a woman was gazing at the beautiful stars in the moonlight sky in the backyard of the house beside hers. The woman had beautiful aqua eyes and long wavy black hair reaching to her waist and wore a pair of yellow pajamas. As she was gazing at the stars, she suddenly felt an unknown energy pop up in the house. It felt similar to the one that was here before, so maybe the person just moved in. But how did he just suddenly appear in the house out of thin air? From his energy, he definitely wasn't one of those devils, so maybe a mage or a magician. As she was thinking this, the energy suddenly became moving closer and closer to her before she heard a door open from behind her. I wasn't expecting guests so soon, she heard the man said as he looked at her with a small smile on his face. Although she wouldn't show it, she had to admit the man was quite handsome with that smile of his. He had spiky blonde hair and azure blue eyes that seemed to look right through her. Along with that, he wore an orange outfit and a white coat that had red flames under it, as well as a headband with a swirling leaf symbol on his right arm. The whiskers on his face seemed to add a bit more charm to the man as well. I wasn't expecting a neighbor as well, the woman said as she turned her head back to the stars above her. A beautiful night, isn't it? The man said, walking over to her and sitting beside her. Yeah, it is, the woman said as she smiled slightly. The two gazed at the stars in silence before the man got up. Well, it was nice watching the stars with you. If you want, you can come here whenever you feel like it, the man said, causing the woman's eyes to widen slightly as she blinked a few times before nodding her head. What's your name? The woman asked the man as he gave her a smile. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. The man now known as Naruto told her his name. The woman repeated his name a few times before she stared at his azure blue eyes. My name is Rin Tasaka. It's nice to meet you Uzumaki-san. The woman now known as Rin said as she smiled beautifully as the moon shined on her. It's been 3 weeks since he has left the elemental nations. 3 weeks since he has arrived in this world. Since those 3 weeks, his clones from around the world gathered much information such as the economy, a bit of intel that was hidden from the government of some of the countries such as the United States, and lastly the history of this world. To say he was quite unhappy was the understatement of the century. When he looked through the history of some of humanity, he could only sigh in disappointment. No matter what world, there is always war, he can't deny that. Thankfully, the warring times in the elemental nations are over. Sure, some robberies and troublemakers here and there, but they were always taken care of. A-class and S-class missions were barely handed out anymore except to deal with lunatics, some who actually supported the Akatsuki's old cause, among other things like world domination. All of them are usually wiped out instantly though, since each temple for the Biju and village had a powerful guardian that was personally trained by the 5 cages every 40 to 50 years. Still, he could understand a bit of why some of the wars happened, such as the time with the Americans and the British. Sometimes, wars were inevitable. Closing the book in his hand, he placed it on the shelves at the side of his room. He had to thank Rin for helping him move some things in, although he insisted she didn't have to. Stretching his body while yawning, he went outside of his house as the sun shined beautifully on the front yard that had flowers and 2 trees on the side. He was quite happy that his clone bought this house. The space in the house was great. The backyard had a small pond, and with the help of a few clones and a water-style jutsu, the pond was perfectly clean, not to mention there was a small hill where he could lay down and enjoy the beauty of his backyard and look at the sky. Overall, he was quite content with his house. Ah, hello Naruto. He turned around to see the person who called out his name. Hello to you too, Rin. Naruto greeted and smiled. That day when she helped him move some stuff into his house, he asked if they could call each other by their first names since he was quite used to it. Rin accepted it since she assumed he could be half American considering his blonde hair and blue eyes. Although, she couldn't help but think if he was a yokai or at least a half one considering those whisker marks. When she asked about that though, he simply said he was born with them, causing her to just drop it. Instead of the yellow pajamas that he saw she wore when they first met, she was now wearing a red turtleneck, a black skirt, and long black songs under brown leather flats. Her hair was now styled with flanking twin tails with black ribbons. Still, she was quite beautiful in his opinion, as her appearance was even equal to his lover. Thinking about her, a sad smile graced his lips. He was searching endlessly with multiple shadow clones, yet he couldn't find a single clue about his child nor his lover. It was almost as if the universe forbid the 3 from seeing each other again. Naruto. What's wrong? When Rin saw his sad smile, she couldn't help but felt a bit worried about the man. It wasn't often where she could find someone who she could talk to, as they were either after her family's wealth or were told by their family members to get along with her in hopes of forming a relationship between 2 houses. The Tasaka family were well known in the Mage and Magician Association after all. Nothing. Just thinking a few things in the past. Naruto's sad smile quickly disappeared as a regular one appeared on his face. Although this one a bit more different than the usual smile he gave her. Even though in the past 3 weeks they became good friends and neighbors, she barely knew anything about his past as he barely spoke about it. The only thing she knew about him was that he could use chakra, he had holy energy inside of him, and that he was searching for someone or something. He never mentioned his past at all. How about I take you out for dinner? Rin asked in a thinking pose as Naruto turned to her surprised. You seemed a bit stressed lately. Although you hid it pretty well, I can still see it. Rin explained as she remembered the day he told her he was searching for someone. I don't want to trouble you. It's been a while since. Naruto felt a bit touched at the concern of a person other than Kurama. It was true, he was definitely stressed. He's been searching everywhere for the 2, yet he couldn't even obtain one single information about the 2, which was stressful for him. The only thing he learned that here, she was a legend and that she was a man in these legends. Of course, she did tell him that she needed to hide her gender so she could become king. Something that was amusing to him. It's alright. Just take me out for lunch or dinner next time you head out to eat. Rin said as the vibe she gave to Naruto was I am not taking no for an answer. Naruto just looked at her for a moment before sighing, scratching the back of his head. Alright. What time then? Naruto asked, causing Rin to smile widely before it disappeared. In 4 hours. Be ready. Rin said, heading back to her house in a rush. Looking at her, he couldn't help but to just smile. Although it's been 3 weeks since they met, he did enjoy her company. Should I look around the town a bit? Naruto asked himself as he stared at the blue sky. It's only been 3 weeks since he arrived in this world with his clones scouting around the world trying to gain as much information as they can. Although his clones did memorize the directions of most of the places and areas in Kuo Town, he wanted to look at it himself. Boss. A clone suddenly appeared right in front of Naruto, saluting towards him. Report. Naruto said in a commanding tone, causing the clone to nod. Boss. I've recently found some information about one of the 3 factions. The Devil faction negotiated with the Shinto faction about the claim to Kuo Town about 4 years ago. The negotiation was somewhat successful, as from what I heard around, the Devils were able to only rent it. The clone explained to Naruto. Information from 4 years ago. That's quite a bit late, but hell, take it nonetheless since it kind of involves him. Do you know if there was any information about how long they were able to rent it, or what was the conditions if they were to rent Kuo Town? Naruto asked his clone, who just shook his head. The only thing I know is that one of the conditions is to protect the people who live in Kuo. Ah, of course. The Shinto faction, from what he learned, is composed of a few gods who he was also quite familiar with. The gods of this faction were Amaterasu, Inari, Tsukuyomi, Susanoo, etc. etc. Strange how some of their names were also the names of the Sharingan technique. Well, what about who's its representative right now? The representatives, from what I gathered, are 2 people known as Rias Gremory and Sona Citri. They both left Kuo Town unguarded though to visit their families in the underworld. When Naruto heard that, he took a deep breath as he tried to calm down. You leave a whole town unguarded just to visit your families? Sure, family is important, he understood that. But goddamn it, would it kill you to have like a few people under you, or maybe a few devils, to guard the fucking town as you go back to the underworld and visit your family? Anything else? Naruto asked the clone as he wanted a bit more information about this. To his disappointment, his clone simply shook its head again, causing him to sigh. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto formed his usual hand sign as 4 other clones popped into existence. The moment the 4 clones were summoned, they all transformed into 4 different individuals who Naruto knew quite well. These individuals who they transformed to were Kakashi, Guy, Shikamaru, and his most favorite, Tobi, otherwise known as Obito Uchiha. Each clone had some of his chakra except for Tobi, who also had some of Kurama's chakra, which should be enough to go into Kurama mode for at least 3 minutes before dispersing. For some reason, he always did find a bit of joy with screwing people over with Tobi even when he was old. He couldn't help but think that the reason why Obito changed his identity to Tobi for a bit was that he also liked screwing some people over or messing with them. The 4 of you will spread around and guard this town against any individual who wishes to harm the civilians here. Tobi, I am trusting you with dealing with any individuals who are more stronger than any of the clones. Although the 3 clones he had were quite strong, all 3 could go straight into Sage mode if they wished. He didn't want any risks to come if someone who is stronger than all 3 of his clones decided to come to Kuo Town and start going on a killing spree. That's why he gave one of his shadow clones a bit more chakra than usual and even gave him some of Kurama's chakra. Not to mention that Mother Nature is still going through a healing process that he entrusted his other clones to do. Although the hatred of Mother Nature reduced a bit ever since he created hundreds of shadow clones to spread across the world to help nature out, trying to stop most things like destroying forests, woods, dumping waste in oceans, and other things, the people here still took some things for granted. This greatly disappointed Naruto. If it wasn't for his meeting with Rin Tasaka, he probably would have thought about burning some of these organizations to the ground along with their leaders. Yes sir, the clone who is known as Tobi said cheerfully in a salute, although his expression is unknown since he wore an orange swirling mask. Like that, the 4 clones all disappeared in a swirl of leaves while the other clone who had given him the information about the 2 devils dispersed in a cloud of smoke. Sighing to himself, he looked at the time on his brand new phone before walking into his house, getting ready to head out for dinner with Rin. Time skip. Naruto was now seen walking into a restaurant beside Rin, who still wore her usual red turtleneck with a white cross, a black skirt, and long black socks under brown leather flats. When the 2 walked in, Rin pulled out a platinum card that said VIP and handed it over towards the person behind the register. When the person received it, he apologized to the 2 and asked them to wait for a moment before leaving to grab someone. Ah, Miss Rin, it's nice to see you come to our restaurant again. After a minute, an old man appeared, said politely, walking in as Rin just slightly smiled. When Naruto saw the man, he narrowed his eyes and immediately scanned him. The old man had white hair and tan skin that was a bit wrinkled, but he also had silver eyes that looked like it was able to look right through you. Interesting. Naruto thought to himself when he finished scanning the old man. This world definitely doesn't lack any experts, alright. I am just glad your business is doing well. It would be a waste if no one tried your cooking. After a few minutes of speaking, the two walked upstairs to the table at the corner that had a sign that said reserved near the window that gave a good view of the shops and a few trees around it that seemed peaceful. The two sat down and began taking their order. After they finished ordering, the waiter nodded and left the two alone. Naruto simply just looked out of the window enjoying the scenery while Rin was also doing the same but also taking slight glances at Naruto. Hey Naruto, I got a question. Rin suddenly spoke, causing Naruto's attention to turn to her. Are you from the UK or the US by any chance? Rin asked him. Not only did he have holy energy from what she sensed, he had blonde hair and blue eyes as well. Although, the weird thing was how he spoke Japanese so fluently, but she guessed there was a chance that he was born in Japan with an American or British parent. When Naruto heard what she said, he was about to open his mouth and deny that, saying he was from Konoha in the elemental nations, before he stopped and just stared at her for a moment. No, I am not from the US. My parents were both born in Japan, although my dad might have a hint of American blood in his veins, that's about it. Naruto answered, plainly confusing Rin. Does he have a grudge on his parents or something? So Rin, any plans after we finish eating? Naruto changed the subject as he ate his bowl of fried rice. He had to admit that this was really delicious. If he had to rate this, he would give it a 10 out of 10. Now, if only they could make ramen, then everything would be just perfect. I never really thought about it. I thought we were just going out to eat before leaving. Do you want to go somewhere? Rin asked as she finishes her fried rice. I was thinking about looking around this town for a bit. Want to get a bit more familiar with it since I just recently moved here. Naruto answered, finishing his bowl. When Rin heard that, she nodded, deciding to show him around the town after they finished eating. Time skip. After eating, Rin took Naruto around Kuo. While she was showing Naruto around, they received some compliments from some of the civilians who they bumped into, which caused Rin to blush faintly when they assumed they were a couple. Nonetheless, she glanced at Naruto a few times before she noticed that he wasn't even bothered by their comments, which caused a slight disappointment in her heart for some reason before it disappeared. Like that, the two walked around Kuo until they noticed it was getting dark. I guess we're done. I guess we are. Rin said as the two began walking home. As the two were walking, they suddenly felt something strange that caused them to stop. A stray devil. Rin whispered as she turned towards the direction of the energy. A stray devil. When Naruto heard what Rin said, a beautiful woman with black hair and hazel gold eyes with slits appeared in his mind. No, this energy is completely different from hers. Naruto thought to himself, staring at the direction of the malicious energy. They are devils who ran away from their master or killed their master. The most common case is usually for power. Come on, we have to get to that devil before it hurts or kills any civilians. Rin yelled at him as she ran towards the direction of the stray devil. As she ran, she reinforced her legs, causing her to accelerate. Didn't know she could do that. Naruto blinked a few times, surprised at the fact she suddenly accelerated. Nonetheless, if what she said was true, we should deal with these stray devils before anything happens towards innocent people. Naruto thought to himself as he stared at the direction where Rin was heading. With Rin, as Rin got closer, she began to saw a bright red glow coming from inside of a house that was still being built. She began to prepare herself by taking out a red jewel just in case if things get messy, and began to accelerate faster, eventually making it towards the inside. The moment she entered, she saw a man smiled slightly in front of a woman as he intimately caressed her chests, causing the woman to moan. This action caused Rin to be shocked before her face glowed crimson. Just when she was about to scream, she saw the man's head suddenly become huge as he opened his mouth wide above the woman. The moment she saw what the man was about to do, she immediately reinforced her body and rushed towards the man, kicking him in the face, sending the man flying. Right when the man was sent flying, she quickly maneuvered right behind the woman who he was just about to eat and chopped her neck, causing her to go unconscious. Phew. Rin let out a sigh of relief. If she had been a bit later, that woman obviously would have been dead. It's been a while since I have seen a human who possessed power. Nonetheless, you will still die by my hand for interfering with my meal. The man who was sent flying slowly got up as he glared at Rin. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Rin deadpanned as she reached her arms out, her fingers pointing at him. This action confused the man for a moment before he just grinned at her before transforming into a huge beast with black fur and blood-red eyes. On each paw were 3 claws, but if one were to look closely, they had a hint of purple on the edge. Two bat wings sprouted right behind the beast, flapping, causing gusts of wind to form. The moment Rin saw this, her face grew solemn and immediately charged a hazy black orb with her forefingers, releasing it as it shot towards the stray devil. The beast growled as it sensed the danger coming from the black hazy orb and immediately dodged before rushing towards Rin with incredible speed. Just right when it raised its paw to slash at her, Rin immediately reinforced her body, dodging the slash and counter-attacked with an uppercut, sending the beast up into the air as it roared in pain. Crouching down, Rin jumped straight up towards the beast in the air, doing a spinning axe kick, causing the beast to crash straight down on the ground, creating a small crater. Is that enough? Rin wondered as she landed on the ground, staring at the small crater. Nope. A voice suddenly yelled, causing Rin to jump as she turned right behind her, only to see two Narutos sitting on boxes, much to her shock. Eye illusions? Rin yelled, pointing at the two, causing one Naruto to frown. Hey. I am not an illusion, Missy. The left Naruto stood up and yelled, pointing at her. Obviously, this one is the clone. Can you shut up? Just go back and this time try to be faster than before. If Rin hadn't rushed here, that woman would have obviously been dead. Naruto said, pointing at the unconscious woman on the floor. But I tried. The clone said, sitting down on the corner, depressed as it drew circles on the ground. This caused Rin to sweat drop at the sight before she looked at Naruto, wondering who exactly he was. The ability to clone yourself was quite rare, and even then, some were only able to do it by doing multiple dangerous experiments on themselves or others. Just go back. I'll finish this. Next time, use the damn Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique. You could have arrived here before us if you did. Naruto spoke with a hint of anger in his voice as the clone immediately got up and nodded before disappearing into a swirl of leaves. Quite flashy. Rin blinked a few times in surprise as she saw the clone disappearing in a swirl of leaves. Hey, what do you mean? Before she could finish what she wanted to say, she heard a mighty roar that shook the building. She immediately turned around to see the stray devil glaring at her as it flapped its wings. TCH. Rin immediately charged a black hazy energy and shot it straight towards the stray devil, only for it to dodge her attack. If that won't work. When she saw the stray devil dodged her attack again, she narrowed her eyes as she reached into her pocket. Hey Rin, let me handle this, will ya? Naruto walked over and patted her shoulder as he stared at the stray devil. This caused Rin to stare at him for a moment before she sighed. She had to admit, she does want to see how strong he was. Sure. Knock yourself out. Rin said, taking a few steps back, causing Naruto to grin at her. Wait, behind you. Rin yelled when she saw the beast charge towards him. When Naruto grinned at her, her eyes widened when she saw the beast was just about to slash at Naruto before he stopped it by grabbing its arm. He slowly turned his head, staring at the beast before he threw the arm up. Not bad in terms of strength, but you honestly fight like a mindless beast. No, you are one now, aren't you? Naruto questioned as he reached into his pouch, grabbing a kunai, twirling it with his finger. Roar. The stray devil roared in anger as if it understood what Naruto said. It rushed towards Naruto, clashing with him, causing sparks to fly each time its claw comes in contact with his kunai. Quite surprising. It seems you do have a bit of intelligence. Naruto jumped back and threw a kunai towards the stray. The stray devil saw the kunai incoming, so it dodged the kunai and rushed towards Naruto. So its evasive abilities are quite good, huh? Guess I'll have to use that to restrain it. Naruto thought to himself, stretching his arms as he narrowed his eyes at the stay. Holy chain, Naruto whispered as a bright light flashed into his hands before it died down, showing glowing yellow chains that wrapped around his hands. The moment the chains appeared, the stray, who was just about to attack Naruto, stopped immediately as fear flashed into its eyes. When it saw the holy chain, it turned around and started running towards the exit in hopes of leaving. HMPH, you're not leaving just yet. Naruto yelled, throwing the chains straight towards the stray in extreme speed. The stray did not had enough time to dodge the chains, so it could only helplessly wait for the chains to come in contact with it. The moment the chains touched the stray devil, it let out a roar of pain as its skin began burning due to the holy energy. Naruto, who saw this, just narrowed his eyes before he stretched out his other hand, forming a glowing yellow kunai made out of holy energy. The moment it was formed, Naruto threw it straight at the stray devil's forehead, leaving a hole that was burning on its forehead, ending its life right there. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Naruto formed a few hand signs before he spat fire out of his mouth, burning the stray's corpse into ashes. Good job. I never thought you'd create different techniques with holy energy. Rin walked over to Naruto with a slight smile on her face. From what she usually seen from a few fallen angels and angels she encountered in her life, They usually commonly used holy spears or formed a sword made out of holy energy along with shields. It was a bit of a surprise seeing chains made out of holy energy and a kunai one at that. It's nothing much. I just experimented for a while before I condensed it into thing that I want like that chain and kunai. Anyways, what do we do with her? Naruto asked pointing at the civilian who was involved in this. A small frown came across Rin's face when he mentioned that. Honestly, this was supposed to be handled by those devils. It seems like every year around this time, they seem to forget about their duties completely. The Shinto faction made a mistake by giving these devils Kuo Town. Rin shook her head, sighing, obviously annoyed. She was not happy at all doing a devil's work. Especially for free. Don't worry. This probably won't happen again since I made some clones to protect this town. They should last for about a good 1 to 2 weeks. If they disperse, I'll just make some more. Naruto reassured her, but she still didn't feel satisfied. She looked at the unconscious woman for a moment before she looked at Naruto. Hey, do you think you can get your clone to bring this lady to the police station? Rin asked Naruto. Yeah, I can do that. Shadow clone jutsu. Naruto answered as he used his signature hand seal to create a shadow clone. Bring that lady to the police station. Make sure to use the transformation jutsu as well so they don't who you are and disperse when you are done. Naruto ordered the clone. Yes sir. The clone saluted at Naruto and then transformed into some random person. Right after he transformed, he immediately picked the unconscious lady up princess styled and rushed towards the police station. So you can summon those clones out of nowhere. No experimenting bodies, no labs, no nothing. Rin asked immediately, causing Naruto to shake his head. I made those clones with my chakra. It's called the shadow clone jutsu. With chakra, I can do a lot of things such as manipulating the elements itself, summoning animals, walk on water, walls, ceilings, and all that. You name it, I can do it. Naruto explained, causing Rin to look at him for a moment before she formed a magic circle below her. Let's go. Rin said as Naruto smiled, nodding his head. Yeah, let's go home. In some unknown mountain, you can see Rin sitting on the ground with her arms wrapped around her legs, watching a certain blonde who sat there in front of her a bit far away, meditating as birds surrounded him. Some were flying around him and some landed on his shoulders as if they were quite comfortable. A few animals even came and surrounded him, some laid on the ground watching him happily and curiously while others just fell asleep right there. This is the first time I ever saw this. Rin whispered as she felt the area around them becoming even more peaceful than it already was. What was even stranger was that every single living being around them suddenly came towards Naruto as if they were at home around him. Hell, even she felt that she was at home with him a tiny bit. The amount of nature energy just coming towards them was amazing. There wasn't even a hint of malice. Senjutsu. From what was known in the world, Senjutsu can grant its users incredible power, but there was a chance it would cause them sink into madness and go crazy. Rin spoke to herself as she watched Naruto meditating. The power he had was quite dangerous, not to mention it was supposed to be a power used only by yokai. What would happen if a human were to use it? Summoning jutsu. Suddenly Naruto opened his eyes, showing his golden eye with bars instead of regular pupils. Biting his thumb to draw some blood, he performed a series of hand seals before slamming his hand onto the ground. A poof of white smoke appeared before slowly disappearing. Nothing, huh? Naruto frowned, seeing no huge toads around. Well, he should have expected this. There was no way the toads can cross over to this dimension since dimension traveling is truly a broken thing. Still, this is a problem. Although I am quite strong myself, I don't believe there would be a time where I don't need assistance. Naruto thought to himself as he looked at the spot where he failed his summoning jutsu. There are multiple gods out there in this world whose strength is unknown. Although he was not sure, the fact they were called gods was still quite alarming. He had only fought one god before, and that was Kaguya, but that was with the help of others. His strength was vastly different than it was before. He knew that. He now had more techniques he can use, his chakra control basically reached the very peak, and he now had holy energy. Still, even with all these things considered, some of these gods are probably stronger than even Kaguya. Hell needs some allies if they were to be hostile towards him. Truly, she lives in quite a difficult world. Naruto sighed, rubbing his temples before he looked around, seeing countless animals and birds in his backyard. Petting the deer that was beside him gently on the head, he got up and turned off his sage mode. Alright, you all should return back to wherever you came. With so many of you here, I am pretty sure some people would notice. I have to test something here too, and it would be quite dangerous for you all to stay here. Naruto said seriously as multiple animals seemed to have groaned before left reluctantly. Seeing this, Naruto shook his head. That was quite an interesting scene. He turned to see Rin sitting on the bench with her head rested on her hand looking at him. Well, I am glad it entertained you a bit, Naruto said getting up before he stared at her seriously. Rin, are you planning to stay while I do some tests? Naruto asked as Rin stared at him for a moment before nodding. I am kind of interested, Rin simply said as Naruto just took a deep breath. You better promise me that you won't mention this to anyone. Alright. Seeing Naruto so serious, she thought about it for a moment before nodding her head again. Alright then. Seeing her nod, Naruto raised his left hand and began condensing his chakra, showing a bright blue orb in his left hand. Powerful. Rin whispered as she watched Naruto begin raising his right hand. When he raised it, a bright yellow orb appeared in his palms as he continued condensing holy energy into it. Taking a deep breath, Naruto slowly began moving both of his arms, confusing Rin a bit before her eyes widened. He's planning on fusing both of those together. Rin yelled in her mind, shocked as she watched both holy energy and chakra slowly coming closer and closer together. Despair. Naruto thought to himself as he began leaking this negative emotion from his body, covering both holy energy and chakra. Rin, who was watching from the bench, shivered. She looked around, seeing multiple formations being activated around the mountain. Truly, he had thought this out. When he asked her to help him out setting up formations so other beings won't notice any abnormalities, she was confused but nonetheless agreed. Now, she knew exactly why he asked her. Boom. Rin watched as both holy energy and chakra finally collided. The two looked like they were clashing each other for a second before a bright green light began appearing from the middle. The ground below them began shaking as the two attempted to fuse. Now. Naruto roared as he smashed the two energies together forcefully, causing multiple cracks on the ground due to the pressure. The two opposing energies suddenly exploded, sending Naruto flying back. Idiot. Rin said, blinking a few times before she ran towards him. Cough cough, that didn't go as planned. Naruto groaned, lying on the ground as smoke started rising a bit from his two hands that were quite red instead of the usual tan. He did not enjoy the stinging sensation coming from them at all. Luckily for him, there were 2 buckets of water beside him, so he quickly moved his hands in the water, enjoying the coolness of the water while his skin began regenerating. You do know that mixing different energies like chakra and holy energy is dangerous, right? It's almost impossible mixing them together. Rin asked, looking at Naruto, who was laying there on the ground. Looking at Rin, Naruto couldn't help but blink a few times as a few memories came to him. Flashback. Naruto, why would you try to add your wind chakra to my sword? A beautiful blonde woman with emerald eyes said, looking a bit annoyed as she looked at Naruto, who was laying on the ground still smiling quite brightly. Oh come on. I am pretty sure a few more tries it would actually work. Naruto couldn't help but whine as the beautiful blonde woman sighed. Naruto, you know I am not from here. Your chakra and my sword can't simply just work together like that. They are worlds apart after all. It's impossible for them to be together. The woman said, looking at Naruto, who just pouted but nonetheless grinned at her before seriously looking at her. Nothing is impossible. Who cares if they are worlds apart? Impossible is only a word. It may be impossible for others, but it will never be impossible for me. Naruto Uzumaki. The young Naruto said, looking straight into the woman's emerald eyes. When he said those words, the blonde woman couldn't help but blinked a few times before a slight smile came across her face. Maybe you're right. I've seen quite the amount of miracles you created over the years after all. The woman said, placing her hands on his cheeks, staring at his blue eyes. The two were like that for a moment before they started to move closer and closer to each other. The two closed their eyes as their lips began to move closer and closer. Suddenly, an explosion was heard miles away, causing the both to instantly get up. Their face flushed red for a moment before it disappeared, and they both looked towards the direction of the explosion with a serious look. Let's go, Saber. The blonde woman, identified as Saber, nodded. Flashback end. There is nothing truly impossible in this world, Rin. Especially for me, Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smiled at her, getting up from the ground and removed his hands from the 2 buckets of water. Anyways, let's begin our spar, shall we? It's what you requested that day after all. And what better place to spar than on the mountains? Naruto said, grinning, causing Rin to nod her head. The two were obviously interested in each other's strength. By sparring, they can both satisfy each other's curiosity, even if it's just a bit. The two took a few steps back before they both got into their fighting stances. Well, one of them anyway. Naruto just simply crossed his arms and stood there like an unmoving mountain. Although he did simply that, the pressure on Rin increased by several times, confusing her. Let us begin now. Attack me with everything you got. Fight me with the intent to kill me. If you don't, you won't win. Naruto said as the overbearing aura coming out of his body became stronger. How arrogant. How domineering. This was Rin's thought when she heard him say those words. HMPH, don't regret it then. Rin snorted as she began reinforcing her body. She quickly dashed towards Naruto without any warning and launched a palm strike right towards his stomach. Not bad. Naruto simply said as he watched the palm strike going straight towards his stomach. He can feel his instincts flaring slightly as the palm strike kept going closer and closer. Right when Rin's palm was about to smash right into his stomach, Naruto hopped right above her arms with incredible speed, enough to create a slight afterimage, shocking Rin. What the hell? Taking advantage of her shock, Naruto quickly launched a kick heading right towards her head. Rin immediately snapped out of shock, but because of her shock, she could only raise her right arm to block the incoming kick. Boom. After she blocked the attack, it created a small shockwave before she was sent flying. The moment she was about to crash towards a tree, she quickly spun her body and used the tree as a cushion before launching right towards Naruto again. Interesting. Naruto was slightly surprised at what she did before he narrowed his eyes at the incoming Rin. Right when Rin was near Naruto, she used her feet to get a hold of the ground before launching a palm strike at his stomach again. This time, it successfully worked as the attack caused Naruto to take a few steps back before he was able to regain his footing. Taking advantage of his slight injury, she quickly dived right below and kicked his feet, causing him to lose his balance. With a slight smirk, she clenched her fist and sent a punch towards Naruto. Good. Naruto bent his body, dodging the punch, and placed his hands on the ground to support his body and send a ruthless kick right towards her chin. Rin could only move her head slightly, leaving a slight scratch on her face. Nonetheless, she smiled as the two kept trading blows after blows. They kept this up until sunset. Right now, Naruto just stood there with a few injuries on his body before it quickly disappeared with the help of Kurama's chakra. He watched Rin, who was lying on the ground breathing heavily with multiple injuries and scratches on her body. Sweat dripping on her face due to the spar. That healing ability is bullshit. Rin spoke as she kept breathing heavily, causing Naruto to chuckle. He walked towards her before sitting right beside her. How are you feeling? Naruto asked, causing Rin to glare at him. Okay. No need to glare at me like that. Here. A red bubble-like menacing energy came from Naruto's hand, scaring Rin quite a bit. Was he seriously going to attack her? Before she could think anymore, the energy touched her and spread all around her body. Instead of the pain that she anticipated, she felt her injuries slowly heal before it all disappeared, causing her to blink a few times. The red energy that was on her also quickly disappeared as if it wasn't there to begin with. Please, I was just helping you. No need to be scared. Naruto rolled his eyes, causing Rin's face to go slight red. She had a ton of reasons to be scared. What kind of energy that heals have malice in them? Most people would have assumed they were being attacked just like her. HMPH, as if I needed your help at all. Also, for your information, it's not my fault that red energy was filled with malice. Most people would have assumed that they were being attacked just like me. Rin said a bit angrily with her face turned and eyes closed. Her arms were crossed and she refused to talk to him at all, shocking Naruto a bit. From what he knew, she was a gentle, kind and caring woman, similar to his wife Hinata. The second woman he loved. Even though it was quite common for some people to have multiple wives or concubines back in the elemental nations, Naruto still felt it was a bit cruel to the kind, caring, and gentle Hinata. The weight lifted off his shoulder, though a bit later, after Hinata repeatedly told him she didn't care. She clearly understood Saber's position in his heart, including her own. Although she was sad she was slightly below Saber, she understood. Saber had cared for him even in his darkest days, from all the stories he told her. Although she just stood in the sidelines, watching him far even if he was in need of help. This matter had always given her depression, as she regretted not doing anything until much later. Anyways, off topic here. Well, you're right on that, I guess. Still though, you could have just said thanks for the help at least. Naruto blinked a few times. Never thought the moment I woke up you'd be sparring a human. Then again, I don't really care that much. A deep voice boomed from deep inside Naruto. Kurama, you're awake? Naruto quickly healed up and jumped in surprise. From his estimations before, he thought Kurama would have woken up in about a month or so. Never did he thought Kurama would wake up this early. Of course I am. Did you think I would not notice you using my chakra a few times? Although it was just 3%, I can still slightly feel it. Kurama snorted before he looked at Rin with interest. How interesting. Instead of chakra flowing through her, it's a different type of energy. Although Kurama was no Hyuga, he can still see the energy coming from Rin. Naruto started informing him about this world. The factions, holy energy, devil energy, magic, everything that he knew, he told Kurama. Well, if I am correct, she should have a relation with the angels or the church. Your holy energy did come from that woman's sword and sheath after all. Kurama pondered for a moment before speaking, causing Naruto to nod his head. I already guessed this from the beginning, the only problem is that I have no clue where the church is. Why not ask that woman beside you? Rin, was it? Her potential is quite amazing for a human. Her strength is quite impressive as well. With that power and potential, no doubt she has some information about them. She must have at least tied herself to a faction to help accelerate her growth. Kurama suggested while praising her talent. The two kept on talking before they heard a growl, causing Naruto to look at the source of the growl. When Rin saw him staring at her, she blushed heavily in embarrassment, causing both the immortal shinobi and the nine-tailed fox to laugh. Alright, how about we head to my house and I cook for you? Rin would have rejected if she didn't felt really hungry. Sparring for 5 straight hours can do that to someone. Her strength impressed even Naruto. At some point in the spar, Naruto even had to pull up Sage mode as Rin's potential burst out suddenly, creating a huge and powerful fin shot. Okay. Rin simply said, still feeling a bit embarrassed. Let's get going. Naruto smiled brightly. Deep inside though he had a frown on his face. Please forgive me for this, Rin. This is really important to me, so I hope you will understand. I will leave you with one thing to protect you before I go. Time skip. Sitting on a chair, Rin was absolutely satisfied with Naruto's cooking. It was as if the two were eating at a high-class fancy restaurant. She watched Naruto clean the dishes as she began thinking of that spar she had with him while drinking this soothing hot tea in front of her. She could feel her strength improving in that spar. Although she was a very talented mage, the thing she lacked the most is combat experience. Naruto helped her improve that. Although he did beat her down to the point where she couldn't move anymore, she was nonetheless thankful for what he did. Even if the improvement is a little, she was still improving nonetheless. Still, she was just a bit angry at him for beating her down to the ground. Rin, I need to ask you something. Naruto suddenly spoke, snapping Rin out of her thoughts as he cleaned the dishes. Yeah. Do you know where exactly the church is? He asked her as she just tilted her head at him. You mean the abandoned church on the hills? No, I mean the main church. The headquarters, I guess you would say. The moment he asked that, Rin looked at him with a surprised look. Why would he want to know where the main church is? From what I know, the main church is in England. That's about all I know. But why would you want to know? Rin questioned him. She saw that he suddenly stopped scrubbing the dishes with a sponge and just looked at her for a moment. There was hesitation in his eyes before it quickly disappeared. Well, you can say I have personal business with them, I guess. Naruto laughed as he turned back to the dishes. After he finished cleaning them all, he stretched his body and yawned. By the way, I am actually quite curious about this. Are you a part of any faction? Naruto asked Rin, who shook her head. Not everyone goes and joins a faction. Some may, but some don't. The others that don't either join an organization such as the Magic Association or some other independent organization. Rin explained as Naruto nodded his head. Then what organization did you join? Naruto asked curiously as he looked at her beautiful aqua eyes. I've joined the Magic Association. My family has been tied to them for about 1 or 2 centuries, mostly because of my ancestor, Nagato Tasaka. Once she brought the name up, Naruto couldn't help but think about Nagato Uzumaki, the wielder of the Rinnegan as well as the pseudo-leader of the Akatsuki. Is he well on the other side along with his family? Are his friends relaxing in the other world? Naruto? Rin poked him on the face a few times, snapping him out of his thoughts. He turned his head to the clock and realized that 20 minutes have passed. Hee. My bad. I was just thinking about an old friend of mine. Naruto laughed, trying to cover his embarrassment. Of course, it didn't work as Rin just stared at him while also blushing a bit. Naruto was quite handsome. If it wasn't for the fact that he was the Jinchuriki of Kurama, most girls would chase him since the days of the academy. Not to mention his whiskers. How can anyone be so handsome and adorable? Rin can almost feel herself swaying a bit before she regained her composure. The two were silent for a moment before she asked him one question. Are you planning on going to England to search for the main church? Yes, I am. Naruto responded truthfully. What are you planning to do? She asked him. Naruto slowly turned around looking at her with a slight smile on his face. But one look in his eyes she can tell he was hesitating. Why he was, she didn't know. Say, have you ever heard of Arturia Pendragon? When Naruto asked Rin that question, Rin tilted her head and shook it. How about Arthur Pendragon? At this one, she nodded her head. Who hasn't heard of Arthur Pendragon before? There were so many stories about him that spread nationwide. Seeing that she nodded her head, Naruto smiled even more. What if I told you I am here to search for that person? At this, Rin just gave him a deadpanned look. Naruto, that person's been dead for ages now. No, she's not dead, Naruto said looking at the night sky. After all, the boss believes in her. Right after Naruto said that, a sudden poof was heard causing Rin to look at the corner. She saw just a bit of smoke before it dissipated in the air completely. I just want to let you know now, Rin. I am only a clone. The poof of smoke was also a clone that's supposed to be used for gathering information. Rin's eyes immediately narrowed at the clone. She knew he had a technique that could create clones. The problem was she didn't know how many he could create and how the technique even worked. From what he's saying right now, his clones are able to transfer information to him by just poofing out of existence. Right now, the boss should be heading towards England to search for that main church. Why? Rin asked the clone who only smiled at her. You'll have to ask him that yourself when he comes back. I am only here to deliver a gift after all. Scene change. Naruto was currently standing on top of a tower in England holding a three-pronged kunai that his clone placed here about a few weeks ago. Closing his eyes, he asked Kurama a question. Kurama, we're getting quite close, aren't we? Naruto asked the immortal nine-tailed fox who stayed silent. No matter what, I will find her and our child. If the devil himself blocked my path, I will slay devil. If God blocks my path, I will slay God. Naruto said domineeringly as the wind started blowing towards him causing his coat to flutter. His blue eyes turned blood red with slits for a moment before returning to normal. I wonder, how many times have I heard that from a human yet they couldn't succeed? A beautiful voice sounded causing Naruto to turn his head, his hand tightly gripped to a three-pronged kunai just in case. The moment he laid eyes on the woman, he was honestly stunned. The woman had long royal purple hair going down to her knees and blood-red eyes that seemed to enchant her beauty even more. If that wasn't enough, she wore a purple and pale violet full bodysuit with black markings trailing all over that was fastened by lavender buttons and buckles, lavender-colored steel shoulder guards, and black armored high-heeled boots. All of which seemed to fit with her slim but fit hourglass figure along with her pale skin. In Naruto's opinion, this was the most beautiful person he has ever seen, even more than Arturia herself. How many beautiful women has he met so far from this world? Each one outclassed every single person back in his world that it wasn't even funny. Arturia, Kuroka, Rin, hell even some of the civilians here easily outclassed some of the models back in his world. Deadly goddess. Naruto said with a blank expression as he stared at the woman who seemed to eye him a bit while holding a red spear that faintly emitted bloodlust. A hint of interest appeared in her eyes before it quickly disappeared. Naruto also snapped out of it instantly as he said that and looked at the red spear she was holding. That's the first time I've been called that before, not bad, but I'd rather you call me by my name, Scathach. Now tell me, why is someone as powerful as you be doing here in England? The woman now identified as Scathach asked calmly as she pointed her spear towards Naruto. This was the fateful day of the immortal meeting another immortal. The day the two would never forget in the future. Thanks for watching.